And Baruch Hashem, I got over Shavuos, I got a few responses from people who actually was surprised that they're listening it online. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know. They're very, very quiet. But it seems that people are actually interested in this type of study, as meticulous and as detailed as it could get, but it's definitely a rewarding place. So I'm just going to read the summary, right? This paragraph explains the difference between the essential koach ma in every Jewish soul and the way that koach ma becomes revealed in conscious avodah, right? What do we mean by conscious avodah? Conscious avodah, it's something that we actually experience consciously, meaning, right, which world corresponds to conscious avodah is Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. Okay? So when we are talking about conscious avodah, we truly mean, our machshava, dibur, and ma'aseh, what we are aware of. So, one second, let me just find that here. Okay, great, right? So every Jew has an essential point, which is, we call it koach ma, in the nefesh Elokis, right? And it is rooted in chachma ilah of Atzilus. Okay. Now, this level is so high that it's not normally revealed within the ordinary understanding, emotions, or actions. It can appear openly only in extreme moments of opposition, such as when a Jew is pressured to abandon Torah, okay, and is awakened to Mesiras Nefesh. But that revelation is beyond comprehension and emotional Hahispaalus, okay? Now, very similar to Yechida, there is a connection between Koach Ma and the Yechida, okay? But we're yet not talking about that thing, okay? So, and usually spiritual arousal that comes through learning and understanding is not from essence of Koach Ma itself. Again, the spiritual Hahispaalus that comes through learning and understanding does not come from this Koach Ma itself, but from an extension, but from Hamshacha, from that place, right? From Hispashtus of that place of Koach Ma that becomes enclosed, okay, which is called in Ein of the Sechel of the heart. Ein HaSechel Shebelev. These are the exact words of the passage, right? When this eye of the intellect shines openly, the person can perceive the Elokus within the very letters of the divine concept. But when it is concealed, the person can only sense the divine light through the explanations and intellectual grasp. Okay, so now we understand why in our previous instance that we brought up two people, right? If you remember, we are discussing this difference, okay? That one was able right away to capture the point, okay, and be misspelled from it. And he didn't need a lengthy explanation. So he got the essence of it, right? And there are those. And there was another one who, no, he was able only to get misspelled after he was able to understand a full concept, what it takes, what comes and what goes, etc., etc. Okay. The paragraph then also went on to explain the spiritual chain of descent, right? How the Hishtalshalos actually comes from this Koach Ma of Atzilus, which is Chachma of Atzilus, all the way down, right? So the Koach Ma is rooted in Chachma of Atzilus, then it descends through Malchus of Atzilus into Bria, okay, the Yechal of Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is Chabad, Chachma Bina and Das, and from there, this point of perception becomes enclosed differently depending on the soul's root, okay? So, in action, meaning that Koach Ma gets enclosed in action for the souls rooted in Asiya. It can get enclosed in emotion for those who are coming from the world of Yitzirah. And it gets enclosed in understanding and Havana and comprehension for those whose souls are rooted in Bria. A higher type of soul, rooted in the Heichalos of Kodesh HaKadoshim, of the world of Atzilus itself, right, have this inner eye of the intellect revealed in the body, not just only in certain parts of the body, which is the maise, right, the lower end, or the heart, or the intellect. It gets enclosed in the body, totality, right, in total, right, allowing the person to see the essence of godliness enclosed within the letters themselves. Okay? So they don't have to go through the similar processes. Okay, so the paragraph also resolves the earlier distinction between being aroused by the essence of the idea versus aroused by the explanation, right? It explains that the bina itself has two levels. The pnimius bina and the chitzonius bina. Okay? Therefore, the inner level of bria, of creation, especially in the chal that we're talking about, of Kodesh HaKadoshim, receives directly from the Chachma of Atzilus. Okay? While the lower chambers of bria, right, relate more to the external level of bina. And external level of bina, there's long explanations. Okay? The pnimius bina, it's already Chachma, it's already sensing the concept, sensing the Elokus in the concept, where the explanation is more external form and more intellectual. Okay, in short, right, the deepest koach ma is beyond revelation, but its extension becomes the inner eye through which a person can perceive Elokus within the Torah. The level at which this perception appears depends on the root of the soul, right? Meaning appears to the person first and then to the people who are surrounded. One, it more appears in action. One, it more appears in emotion. The other appears or understanding or direct inner sight. That's already the neshamas of Atzilus. Okay? All right. Baruch Hashem. So we're going to continue. And I'm going to share my screen with the direct text. And we can go from there. Okay, we're just going to choose chapter 3 quickly. Paragraph 11. Okay, as you could see here, you know, the highlighted, you know, this is our previous one, and B'ezrat Hashem, after we finish paragraph 11, we're going to highlight this as well. Okay. V'hina yesh beis hafanim ta'ut. Okay. And from this, we can actually learn that there are two ways a person can make an error in this matter. Okay. What errors can they do? Interestingly, a person, you know, there are two ways how a person can actually make a mistake. Deceiving himself into imagining that he is aroused by the godliness within the letters, and it's not so. Okay, good. So let's dive into it, because none of us really want to make such a mistake, right? To make such a wrong assumption, right? Because truly, in Avodas Hashem, it's very, very essential to really know where the person is actually standing. Yeah, because if a person is really not standing where he imagines standing, and it doesn't matter whether it's a higher, meaning a person thinks higher of himself, or a person thinks lower than himself, both of them are wrong. A person needs to know exactly where he is. So he's avoida, he's ovid be'emes, right? Not to lower himself beyond where he is, and not to make believe that he is somewhere where he's not. So a person needs to have that grasp and that clarity, okay, to where is the person is standing at this given moment. Okay. The inner. Okay, ha'alef, first one, right? Hu madrega hayoter pchesa, right? The first one is a lower level. Right? It's when a person imagines that he's aroused by the spirituality of the concept. Even before hearing the explanation. right? So that's very similar to what we were talking with the first one. But he says, no, a person could actually make a mistake. How is it? He nidbeloy, right? It's comes, he imagines himself, shemitpael meruchnius shalasaga, that he aroused by the spirituality of the concept, umiyad kodem shamo et hezber, and right, even before he hears the explanation, ubeemet eino ken, and in truth it is not so. Mitzad she'ne'edar mimeno afilu koach hasaga, shenikra bina, right? Because he lacks even the faculty of comprehension, which is called bina. Ve'ein borak koach ha'medame shebebina, and he possesses only the imaginative faculty, which is in bina. And therefore, it seems to him that he's aroused by something spiritual. So what he's saying is that it's not the instance where the person hears the concept, right? He does not understand what's going on, and he feels aroused from the godliness that's in it, right? Then it's imaginary. Why? Because over here he says he lacks even the faculty of understanding. You see, it's a very fine line. It's like not that the understanding what causes him is Hahispaalus. That would be the second category, okay? Where a person needs to understand everything and really get into details, and only then he is aroused. Here we're talking about a subtle difference. But that also doesn't mean that he bichlal doesn't understand the concept. He only senses the godliness in the concept, right? It's also not true. Because here, he's already goes into the imaginative faculty of Bina, not the Bina itself. It says, in reality, it doesn't even have the arousal that comes from understanding the explanation, meaning even the lower level he doesn't have. Sham V'hu sham choshech le'or, v'hu sam choshech le'or, right? And he mistakes darkness for light. Mitzad bilbul, kli hamoyach, right? And he mistakes the darkness into light due to the confusion in the mind. Okay? Or mitzad retichas hadomim, okay? Or because of agitation of his emotions, okay? Of his blood, in literal translation. So I'm sure you're familiar with certain people that right away, that when you learn with them, they right away jump into conclusion. Like they're like this running waters that, oh, so then that means this and this. Oh, then that means this and that, right? And they're very, very jumpy, and it's hard for them to focus for extended periods of time. And they don't pause. Okay, and they right away already to something else. Okay, so when this type of person, and I guess we all get into these type of modes. Okay, he might mistaken himself that like, oh, I'm getting excited about the godliness of this concept, but even understanding he's missing. Okay, because it's not skipping levels. Okay, it's understanding something, but at the same time sensing something higher than that. Okay. Now, this is one type of mistake, right? That when a person jumps into something, but truly he's just agitating his emotion, right? He's not calm. He's not, going into, having like this jerky emotions with his, and it's coming from the confusion in the mind. It's not coming from clarity of the mind. Okay? Because when we are talking about a person sensing koach of Atzilus, right? Which is Chachma of Atzilus, when they sense already the godliness of the concept, we are not talking about confusion. We are talking about the point of clarity. Okay, so the energy of that understanding is very different. Okay, the second one errors, right, is when he imagines that he's aroused by the essence of the explanations after hearing it. But as oiz of kola oisius haesber, uboichen la'atzmoi liskor hatamtzit bilvat, v'lo yochel lizbol ha'esber. And then he's choosing to retain only the essence and cannot tolerate the detailed explanation. Okay, so he only wants the kitzer. So that's also an error. Why? You might say, like, hey, wasn't that the whole goal of the second one? After going through all the details, he comes to the point, and then that's it. He kind of drops the ICAs. Okay? Because the point of these ICAs for him was in order to get the point. So now he found the point, he's holding the point, he's looking at the point, is marvelous, and he's having the Hahispaalus from this, and therefore he needs to leave all the ICAs as if like, oh, I don't have shaykhs to this anymore because it's like my past experiences. But truly, this arousal is not from godliness. Okay, Elokus, right? What is it? Frumkeit TV. But it comes from the natural piety. Shemutva v'nafshas Yisrael. That's implanted in Jewish souls. Meaning every person has this frumkeit TVs, right? So if you remember from the second thing, when we went on to discuss, that was the first level, right? First level of this is frumkeit TVs. It's a natural frumkeit that every Jew has planted in the souls. Right? That the person, gets excited from godliness without reason or understanding. That is not the Hahispaalus we're talking. Okay, that people are naturally inclined into a Hasidic word. We're not talking about this. Right? And this stems from the lowest of 5 levels within the divine soul, which we will explain later. Aval chush hargashat Elokus, right? But the true sense of sensing godliness, of feeling godliness within the comprehension, Shabbat Soga Elokis, uchush hachasidut, right? This is the Hasidic sense, shalata saga, of that idea. Okay, that's very essential. It's not a general sense that any Hasidic word I feel warm. No, we're talking about a specific concept that a person is studying. This is what we're talking about. So let's not mistake it with frumkeit TVs, right? That's not what it is. Okay, we're talking about from frumkeit TVs, yeah. He might mistake himself like, oh, I don't need the long explanations. I just need to know that everything is God and God is everything. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so when we're talking about this Hasidic, the chush Hasidut, right? The Hasidic sense of the idea, okay? Okay, which is the essential and primal dimension, which called it simple and abstract substance, right? Koch hayuli, it's this realm of a potential. Okay, hayuli, I think that's what it's called. Right? That this is the simple and abstract substance. Okay, but it's more of a potential. When a person taps into this sense from this acidic idea, kmo essentia, right? This is like the essence, like a tea essence, right? Or very, very strong coffee. Right? It's like an essence or extract into which various kinds of drinks are mixed. Right? And it gives flavor to each one of them. Right? That then it becomes enjoyable, that it adds flavor to each one of them, right? So it becomes enjoyable to drink. Okay, and the sign for this, who canal, It's as it was explained above. שבאים יבחן התמצית שמרגיש בכל פרטי ההסבר. Okay, you see, look at the mushel, right? I'm adding this tea essence, okay, into my drink, and I feel it with every sip I take. What does this mean? This means that a Hahispaalus of the essence of the concept, which is Elokus, it's with every word I read from the maamar. You understand? So I'm not just like, okay, Bekitzer, tell me the point. Then it's not the Hahispaalus that we're talking about. That Hahispaalus is called frumkeit, right? It's a natural frumkeit. This Hahispaalus is, on the contrary, every line that I read, okay, I sense this. You see? The longer, it doesn't matter. The short one, it doesn't matter. Okay? And if it's a long explanation, I want to hear it again and again, because it's like with every sip that I drink this tea essence, I feel the taste of that essence that I like. That's why I want to drink it. Okay, right? He feels, right, that if the essence he feels that he can be discerned throughout all the details of the explanation. Okay, yaskimu laharois al mikavan echad klali bechol hapratim shuaot asher hirgish bechinas elokus shebasaga. Right, and that's what it is. So that point towards one unified intention, right? Meaning he senses it throughout all the details of the explanation. He senses that one point towards one unified intention. And this is the sign that he has sensed the godliness within the comprehension. This is like so essential in all our learning, not only this, in all learning of Chassidus, right? The Kamavuar Bazar, al pi hamishpat, Hashem emet, v'lechen tzidku yachdav, right? And it's explained in the Zohar on the words, the judgments of Hashem are true, they are righteous together. Okay. Okay, let's go further. V'od siman lazeh, right? And there's also one more siman, another sign. Ka'asher yitbarach etzlo, ma sheshama lahavin, right? Is when he has heard, expands within him. Okay. Enabling him to derive many profound ideas, right? So that means what he understood, what he able to sense, right? Allows him, allows him to understand other deep things, ba'omek acher omek, right? Ba'omek acher omek, with depth within the depth. Kama protim, okay, b'toch Hashem, right? The numerous details in Torah, okay, ubeta'amei mitzvot, and in the reasons behind the mitzvahs, ubepirush hamilot betfilah, and from the meanings of the word in the prayer. So what this means is that all of a sudden, when a person touches godliness within the concept in Chassidus, it's in a way opens up his mind to understand other deeper concepts. He has this aha moment, right? This epiphanies. It's like, because he is rising to a higher level of consciousness, right? So if before all these pratim were like separate units, when he touches this klal, not only as an idea, but as a sense of Elokus, he's able to synchronize all lower ideas into a bigger picture, right? It's like, oh, that's what it meant in that maamar. Oh, this is what that sikha was talking about. Okay, so all of a sudden things becomes more unified in his brain as opposed to being in single and divided compartments. Okay. So also the words of the tefillah start to make sense. Like, oh, this is why it's like that. This is why it's like that. Okay. And this is the sign that he has sensed the godliness within the comprehension. Okay. When things open up for him. Why? That's the point of clarity. Okay. When things are separate, when we don't know, when we don't see, okay? But once that point, the inner vision opens up, okay? It's like a third eye in a way, okay? Opens up. The vision becomes not flat as before, but it becomes deep. That's why he uses the expression omek achar omek. Okay? We sense a certain degree of deeper dynamics between things. And that is like, oh, that's what it means. Okay? Shabbat Saga, right? That's the sign that he has sensed godliness. Because what's Hashem? Hashem is this inner glue in a way, that glues all of creation together. Okay, because without Elokus, all of it is nothing. It's meaningless. So when we touch that point of Elokus within our consciousness, within ourselves, other things start forming into something important, something meaningful for us. Okay. Asher hirgish b'bchinas Elokus shebahasagam, right? K'muvor b'Arizal. Okay, as it's the Razal, not Arizal, right? As it's explained by our sages, Kol halomet Torah lishma daika, the one who studies Torah for its own sake, zoichel advarim harbe, he merits many things. Okay, yeah, okay. Kamayana mitgaber, right? And he becomes like an ever-flowing spring, right? Because there is no limitation. What does this mean, studying Torah for its sake? I mean, we took a whole first chapter to discuss the meaning behind it. What is learning Torah for its sake? Learning Torah for its sake is not for the pleasure. It's not for becoming, who knows what. It's not becoming an intellectual being, and whatever, right? This is knowing God. This is the true reason why a person should be studying Torah. Okay, what do I mean knowing God? You wanna touch God. Okay, so this is the intention. Now you're gonna derive pleasure from it. Okay, but I want to know. I want to connect. Okay, with God. So when that is at the forefront reason why the person goes into the study of the Torah. What it does that a person is zeicha for many other things because he's literally touching, and Hashem will reveal himself to this person, right? Because he has the right intention. Okay? And he will reveal himself through different things, through different avenues. Right? It may not necessarily be like like a nevuah type of thing. Okay. Now, what is this? Right? And this is because through studying Torah for its own sake, Meir Bechinas Or and Sof HaMelubash B'Torah. Right? The infinite light gets revealed to him, shines upon him, right? Which is enclosed in the Torah. And it's not like this when he does not study for its own sake. What happens? Hashem is in a way shuts down. So what happens? I mean, Or and Sof is not shining on him, so it just becomes an intellectual. Right? And he grabs only the intellectual part of it, of the Torah. V'lo ora Eloki, and not the godly light that's in it. V'hasaga gvul is he, right? And then such comprehension becomes limited, right? He puts a cap over himself because he never wanted. You see, Hashem is a gentleman, okay? He will give you what you want, okay? You want me, you'll get me. You want Torah intelligence, Torah intellect, you'll get Torah intellect. You ask, You get what you asked for. But you and mimashal hanar, right? And this can be understood through analogy of a river. Tekasher mechubar lemayan, right? When the river is connected to the wellspring, what happens? Az nimshach bo chadoshes. Then, when the water is continuously flow into it, right? There's a new water constantly flowing into the river. Va'az nimshach bo b'chadoshes, right? It's new water constantly flowing into Masha'enkin kasher psakamayan. But what happens to the river when the connection to the ma'ayan cuts off? Mimele. Okay. Yichra v'yivai shanar. Right. The river will eventually dry out because there's no continuity. There's no renewal. Okay. This renewal process happens when the water wants to connect to the ma'ayan. Okay. But if a person doesn't want to have that connection, so that connection will not appear naturally, the person would need to reignite that connection. And so is the feeling of gadlus, sensing of the gadlus. Shebehezber. That's in the explanation. Who? Kamashal chibur hanar lemayan. This is like the connection of the river to its source. Right? And if it's connected to the river, therefore one never ceases to derive new insight from one idea to another. Chadashot legamre, continually discovering new depths. Okay, isn't it? That was a beautiful, yummy piece of Chassidus. That's really, really phenomenal. Really putting things in such a gorgeous, beautiful perspective of really understanding what is the renewal process and how to get into that flow, right? The flow of energy. Everybody's talking about it. It's really, really awesome idea of continuity of that energy of really connecting to this to Elokus, Interestingly, on one hand, you see, when people don't have patience for long explanations, it shows that they're not really in it, right? It shows that the tamtzit, okay, is not in every sip that they take. This is the message to all my friends who are sippers.
I think it's important to mention because the Rebbe would say somebody who's not used to learning, like, should start maybe with 5 minutes at a time. So all these things could be eventually built. When a person makes a habit and is asked just to concentrate fully for 5 minutes, and then they can build it up. So it's not like either everything or nothing. It's something that can be built up and learned how to do.
100%. But it's so interesting. I worked for a while with special needs children, right? And you see, like, people say, no, they cannot concentrate, they cannot do this, they cannot do that. And, when they're interested in something, they can concentrate. Do you understand? What does this show? It's true that the focus may not necessarily be as strong, but when they need something, okay, and we can learn it from ourselves, when something really touches us and we need to send this email and we need to organize our documents, okay, and we need to get this, we all of a sudden discover interesting powers, right? And there are many letters that the Rebbe brought about this very interesting analogy like big Tanaim, right, would think about what type of kindness a woman could come up against a husband during the divorce proceedings. And you might think to yourself, like, come on, like we're talking about big giants of Torah. The intellect was beyond our comprehension. I don't think the biggest Talmid Chacham that you know now is nothing compared to our Tanaim. It would be considered to be Amaretz, right? Compared to the Tanaim in Amoraim. Yeah, I mean, we all agree on that. And they are thinking about what a simple woman could come up. It's like you have nothing else to do. Like, why are you wasting your intellect on this? Simply, the answer is very simple. Whenever it's a burning issue for a person, believe me, all the obstacles in intelligence melt. When it's yichpatiyut, people come up with clever ideas that, yes, it takes a Tana and a Mara to think about these things. Okay, why? Because there's a point of a need. Need opens, unlocks doors that otherwise would be locked forever. So what do we learn from this? How much we really want Elokus. That's the bottom line. Okay. The bottom line, if a person is important for him, as you said, he'll start small, he'll build it, but as long as this desire for having something could create, as I see Sarah mentions in the chat, yeah, it's like b'nai tzlafchat. Okay, and we see this in history repeated itself many, many times, where a person could really tap into something much, much greater, what nobody could ever like envision. It comes from this inner desire. Open up all of a sudden, because we all have koach hayuli, we all have koach hamaskil, we all have this reservoirs of power and godliness within us. We don't need to go anywhere. It's literally within, packed within every single Jew. Okay, so now we have access to all these beautiful resources, but what are we really doing with it? Okay. If a person really needs something, they find it. They literally find it. They find a way. So Hashem is in a way saying, okay, if I'm important to you, you'll find it. Now, is that a comfortable place? No, we obviously want, Hashem to be more revealed and all that stuff, right? But it's it's an interesting subject in general. And no, it's not either or. There's a lot of gray area there, right? But over here, we really want to look into the kavana. The kavana is either or. Sometimes people get themselves into something with the wrong kavana, and they then discover a true kavana in it. That happens very often as well. Okay, and we're not taking away that. Yes, there is a place where a person enters a particular field with the wrong kavana, and then discovers the inner joy, and then they no longer care about their career, why they entered into this place. The Hashem finds interesting ways of how to attract people into his domain. So definitely that, where a person might feel on one end needing to strive and work towards Elokus. We sometimes feel it, sometimes we discover it as mimela, and it's beautiful. I think it's just the way he describes, the way he explains, how it becomes like more of that encompassing air in a way, where everything else will start making sense and it's not separate. This is what actually brings everything together into one cohesive understanding. And Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add? Sarah Tzibim? No? Okay, good. So I guess we will finish for today. Baruch Hashem, thank you very much for joining me for these 40 minutes. And I'll share the recording. Zrat Hashem. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day and the week. Baruch Hashem.